Hello everyone. In this video, we are going to discuss about the fourth problem, that is separation. After reading that entire description, we are able to get to know that they are giving an array of length n, and along with that, we are going to get an element that is x. And here, x will be considered as a separated number if and only the if there are two adjacent elements in the array where one element should be greater than that x and another element should be less than that x. So these two rules will specify that. Okay. So if we have that kind of pair or that kind of adjacent elements which are going to satisfy these rules, then I can consider my x as a separated number, right? So here they're asking that we have a freedom to rearrange the numbers, and are we able to make the x as a not separated number by modifying the array arrangement? So that is what we need to keep. If we are able to arrange the array in such a way where x will not be considered as a separated number, then we need to return as yes. We are able to consider, we are able to make the x as a not separated number. Then we need to return as s. If we are not at all able to make the x array where x will be considered as a will not be considered as a separated array, then we need to return no there. Okay, so in this, let's see with one example. Okay, so let's take your x as a 6 here. Is there any pair that you are able to observe where your x will be considered as a separated number? Yes, I'm able to observe. What are those? This is one pair, and here also another one, right? So 3 is less than 6, and 8 is greater than the 6, and 5 is less than 6, where 8 is greater than my 6, right? So here we might have we will come across with few kind of scenarios mainly. So if you have two numbers, then these two numbers might be lesser than the 6, right? So in this case, will you consider this x as a separated number? No, it will be not separated number, right? So if you have two elements side by side where these two elements are greater than x, will you be considered as a separated number? No, in that case also. So if we have these two cases, we can make it as not separated, right? So we got this point, right? So let's come to here. If we have greater elements and as well as lesser elements, or vice versa as well, then the x will be considered as a separated number, right? So we can arrange an array in such a way where all elements are greater than and all elements are less than, right? Side by side. So then we can make it as not separated. But what if we have this kind of situation? Okay. So here in that condition, they particularly mention that separated numbers, right? Uh, Separated when the two elements are side by side, that greater and the smaller element. So if I have this kind of situation, by putting in between something here, can I make this arrangement to fail to make it as a separated? Yes, of course. So what can I keep there? Can I consider an element which is lesser than the x actually? So let's say if you have 8 here and here you have 5 and x is still is 6. If I try to keep an element which is lesser than this one, let's say it is 4, still it makes my x as a separated, right? So this will not work. So here, if I try to keep greater than that, still this pair will make my x as a separated. So we can't keep lesser than element and smaller than element. So with what we left? So we left with exactly x. So we need to keep a number which is exactly 6 if we have this in our array, right? We just need to rearrange the array. We can't keep the new element in that array, right? So are you able to get some logic where if we have that exact number in my array, by keeping that in between this, can I get or can I make my 6 as a not separated number? Yes, absolutely you can make it as right. So let's go with this one test case. Okay. So see here, you have 1, 5, 2, 4, and then 3. So if you see here, and consider your x as a 3. So according to this, what we have discussed, we should have that exactly x, right? So if you see, yes, you have that 3 here in that array. Okay. So how many pairs are there which make my this 3 as a separated? Yes, this is one pair, and this is one thing, and this is another. No, it will not be considered as another pair. And is there anyone? I must. Yes, the first one only. Yes, 1 and 5 also make my x as a separated number. So if I try to keep my 3 in between the first pair, I can make this pair only, which is not going to make my uh, x as a separated. But what about these pairs again? This 5 and 2 and 2 and so. I don't have those many 3's, right? So how I can change this or rearrange this array in such a way where my requirement should be satisfied. Okay. So by putting one element also we can achieve, and there we came across with the two situations as well where x will not be considered as a separated number. What are those two test cases? So those two scenarios. So where your elements, side by side elements should be less than and side by side elements should be all greater than the x, right? So if you see here, what are the side by side elements? Oh, sorry. What are greater than elements of this three in this array? 4 and 5. Okay. And what are the less than elements of this array? This in this array, 1 and 2, right? So these two elements and here these two elements. So this, if I try to arrange these elements in such a way, am I able to get a situation where my x will be considered as a separated? No. And if I try to keep that element here, if you look at this entire array, is there any situation you are able to see where your x will be considered as a separated array? No, right? So I think you got the logic. So if you have that x in your array, are you able to rearrange the array in such a way where you can make that x as a not separated number? Yes, of course.